Have you ever been through a breakup, and in the back of your mind, you wonder if there's any chance of getting them back? Maybe you've tried everything, but nothing seems to work. We've all heard the saying, you don't know what you have until it's gone. And sometimes, it takes a little space and reflection for someone to realize what they truly had. But here's the thing, there is a strategy that can make them come back and beg to be with you again. It's not about begging or chasing, but about positioning yourself in a way that shifts their perception and makes them rethink everything. In this video, we'll reveal the powerful tactics you can use to make them see your value and ultimately return to you. Stick around till the end, because you won't want to miss the key to turning things around. Alright, so let's dive into this idea of improving yourself and focusing on personal growth. It's probably one of the most powerful, yet often overlooked, tools when it comes to getting someone to realize what they're missing and, in a way, making them come back and beg for you. But here's the thing, you can't approach this from a place of trying to win someone back. That's a trap. The real game changer is improving for you, not them. I remember a time in my life when I was caught up in this cycle of trying to make others happy. You know, constantly adjusting my behavior, my words, my actions just to fit into someone else's idea of me. It wasn't just draining, it was suffocating. And guess what? It didn't work. I'm sure you've been there too. When you're so focused on pleasing others, you lose sight of who you actually are. People don't fall in love with a version of you that's a walking checklist of someone else's expectations. They fall in love with the real you, the person who's comfortable in their own skin. So, here's where personal growth comes into play. When you start focusing on your own development, whether it's physical fitness, emotional intelligence, or even just learning something new, you begin to cultivate a sense of confidence and inner peace that radiates. And that's when people take notice. It's not about trying to impress anyone, it's about becoming the best version of yourself. Think about it. When was the last time you were truly inspired by someone who wasn't constantly looking for validation from others? I remember reading something by the philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. I think that's a pretty powerful statement. It speaks to the core of personal growth, not as a means to an end, but as an ongoing journey. And during that journey, you'll learn to embrace your strengths and work on your weaknesses, not for anyone else, but for you. When you do this, something magical happens, your energy changes. You become magnetic. People can feel that shift. They'll start to wonder, who is this person? Where did they find this confidence? And that's when the roles start to reverse. You'll no longer be chasing anyone. They'll be chasing you, and the power dynamic completely changes. You become the one in control of your own happiness, your own destiny. And when someone sees that you've leveled up, they might just come running back, hoping to catch a glimpse of that person they once knew, or maybe even a version of you they never saw before. But here's the kicker, by the time they come back, you won't be the same person. You won't be looking for validation from them. Instead, you'll be standing tall, knowing that whether or not they come back, you've already won. And the best part? You'll have learned that the only person you truly need to impress is yourself. Sometimes, the best thing you can do when you're in a situation where someone is pulling away is nothing. I know, that probably sounds like the last thing you want to hear. You might be thinking, but I need to do something. I can't just sit here and wait. But trust me, giving her space and time is not about doing nothing, it's about doing everything for yourself and the relationship. Here's the thing, when things go south in a relationship, especially if it's after an intense connection, emotions are high. The natural instinct is to chase. You want to fix things, apologize, or convince her that things can be better. But here's what's crazy, when you try to fix things too quickly, it often pushes people away even more. It's like planting a seed in soil that's too wet. You think you're nurturing it, but really, you're drowning it. I've been there myself, clinging to someone, convinced that the more I showed I cared, the more they'd come around. But all I was doing was putting pressure on them. And when you're pressured, it doesn't feel like love, it feels like a trap. What people need in times of emotional turmoil, especially after a breakup or a tough patch, is space. Not because they don't care, but because they need time to reflect. They need to process everything without feeling suffocated by someone else's emotions. It's counterintuitive, right? But the truth is, when you step back and give her the time she needs, you allow her to see things for what they really are. You allow her to reflect, without the noise of constant messages or phone calls. I once read something by the psychologist Carl Jung that stuck with me: we cannot change anything unless we accept it. What he meant was that we first need to step back, take a breather, and really understand the situation before making any moves. Giving space gives her the chance to do just that. It lets her think, evaluate, and remember what she truly values, not just in the relationship, but in herself. And often, in that quiet space, she'll start to realize what she's been missing. The absence makes the heart grow fonder, as they say. But it can only happen when there's a little distance. Of course, there's a balance here. You can't disappear completely. But giving her the room to breathe is one of the most powerful things you can do. It's not about being passive, it's about being patient, about trusting that time and space will allow both of you to see things more clearly. And in that time, you'll both grow. You'll both reflect on the relationship and, more importantly, on who you are outside of it. And when that reflection happens, the things that seemed confusing or painful before might start to make sense. So, don't be afraid of the silence. In fact, embrace it. When you give her the space she needs, you're showing respect for her as an individual, showing that you trust her to figure things out. And, ironically, that trust might just be what draws her back. When it comes to relationships, whether you're going through a tough breakup or just a rough patch, emotional strength is a game changer. I know it sounds cliché, like one of those feel-good phrases that people throw around, but here's the thing: emotional strength isn't about pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's about having the courage to sit with discomfort, face the challenges head-on, and still find a way to move forward. It's about resilience. I've had my share of moments where I felt like I was sinking, where everything seemed to crumble, and the weight of a broken relationship felt unbearable. But you know what? It wasn't until I started embracing my own emotional resilience that I began to understand how powerful this can be. Here's what I mean: when you're strong emotionally, you're not trying to manipulate the situation or force someone's hand. Instead, you're learning to handle whatever life throws your way with grace. And that energy? People feel it. Think about it for a second. When someone sees you navigating a tough time without falling apart or resorting to desperate measures, there's something incredibly magnetic about that. You stop being the person who is trying to cling to someone for validation, and you start becoming the person who can stand tall, no matter what life hands them. That's emotional strength. And believe me, it's more attractive than any desperate plea or grand gesture you could make. I remember reading a quote by the writer Maya Angelou that really struck me: "We may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated." There's something deeply profound in that. It's not about how many times you fall, it's about how you rise each time. Resilience doesn't mean you never feel pain or heartbreak, it means you don't let that pain define you. You don't let it turn you into someone you're not. Instead, you let it shape you into a stronger, more centered version of yourself. People love that. When you show emotional strength, you become someone who can handle life's ups and downs without relying on others for constant reassurance. And, paradoxically, that sense of self-sufficiency is one of the things that often draws people in. It creates a space where someone might think, "Wow, this person has grown. They're not the same as before." But here's the twist: showing emotional strength isn't about becoming cold or distant. It's about feeling deeply and yet not letting those feelings control you. It's about showing that you can experience sadness, regret, or even anger, but you don't let those emotions drag you into a pit. Instead, you rise, you learn, and you continue to move forward with dignity. If you can do that, if you can stay emotionally strong, even in the hardest moments, you will not only earn the respect of those around you, but you'll also become someone people look to for inspiration. And that, my friend, is how you become the person that someone wants to come back to. Alright, let's get into this idea of living without her, but still valuing her. Sounds a little paradoxical, doesn't it? Like, how can you both show you can live without someone and make them feel valued? It's one of those tricky, nuanced concepts that can be difficult to wrap your head around. But trust me, once you really grasp it, it's a game changer. I've been there, feeling like everything is falling apart, and that one person is the missing piece that'll make everything okay. But here's what I realized: you can't rely on someone else to be the source of your happiness. It's not that you don't care about her, or that you're trying to push her away, but you've got to be complete on your own first. In fact, it's when you show that you can live without her that you actually start to create the space for her to choose you, not because she feels obligated or because you're desperate, but because she values you for the person you are, independent, strong, and whole. Think about it this way: if you're constantly chasing someone, or trying to make them feel like they're the center of your universe, it can start to feel heavy. It can even start to feel clingy. I remember once reading something from the famous author Rainer Maria Rilke, who said, "The point of marriage is not to create a quick bond of complete intimacy, but rather to offer the other person the space to become their truest, best self." In a way, this idea of giving someone space to grow applies to all relationships, not just romantic ones. When you show that you can live without her, when you continue to thrive in your life, work on your own goals, and fill your days with meaningful things, you send a message that you're okay on your own. You choose to be with her, not because you can't function without her, but because you value the connection you share. You want to be with her because she adds something special to your life. And when you demonstrate that, you shift the power dynamic. You stop coming from a place of neediness and start operating from a place of abundance. But here's the catch: living without her doesn't mean being indifferent or dismissing her importance. It means respecting her enough to give her the freedom to be her own person, to show her that you don't need her to complete you, but you do want her in your life. It's the balance of being emotionally independent while still being emotionally available. I once went through a time when I focused so much on my own growth, on becoming a better version of myself, that it created this almost magnetic energy. It wasn't about playing games, it was about being genuine, realizing my worth, and giving others the space to appreciate that. In time, the people I valued, including a past partner, came to respect me more. They saw that I wasn't just there to fill a void, I had a full life. And that's when they started to see me not as a fallback, but as someone they could rely on, someone they could build with. So, living without her isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about showing her that you can stand on your own 2 feet, and still, you choose to walk beside her. That's the sweet spot, my friend. You show her you're your own person, but you value the relationship enough to want her to walk beside you on the journey. And trust me, that's the kind of energy that makes people come back and say, "I don't want to lose this." Confidence and authenticity, these 2 things are more powerful than we often realize, especially when it comes to relationships. It's crazy how much energy we spend trying to act a certain way to get someone to notice us or make them want us back. But the truth? Confidence isn't about faking it till you make it, and being authentic isn't about being perfect. It's about owning who you are, flaws, quirks, and all, and being okay with not needing anyone to validate you. I can remember a time when I used to chase approval. Every move I made, I'd second guess. I'd think, will this impress them? Will they like me more if I do this or say that? It was exhausting, and it never really worked. Because here's the thing, desperation is like a bad perfume. You can't hide it. People can feel it. When you're constantly worried about how someone perceives you, it's like you're giving away your power. You become more about getting something from the other person, instead of being genuinely present and confident in who you are. One of my favorite quotes that always brings me back to reality is by the great Maya Angelou. You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. It's such a powerful reminder that no matter what happens in life, you can choose how to respond. When you're confident, it means you've already decided that you're worthy. You don't need someone to constantly reassure you. You trust yourself and know your value, regardless of the circumstances or what anyone else thinks. And that's magnetic. When you show up in the world as your authentic self, people can't help but be drawn to that energy. It's so refreshing. Think about the people you admire. Are they the ones who constantly need others' approval, or the ones who are comfortable being themselves, flaws and all? It's the latter, right? They don't need to impress anyone, they just are. And that's where the magic happens. I've had moments where I let go of trying to perform for others, and suddenly, things shifted. When I stopped worrying about what to say or how to be, and just focused on being real, I started attracting the right people. Not because I was desperate, but because I was confident in my own skin. And that made a world of difference. So, if you want someone to come back and beg to be with you, stop trying to prove yourself. Show up as yourself, confident, authentic, and free from the need to chase. That's when the real attraction kicks in. And here's the beautiful thing, when you're not desperate for someone's affection, you give them space to truly see you, the real you, and that's what makes them value you more. Confidence, without desperation. Authenticity, without the performance. That's the sweet spot. And there you have it. If you take these steps seriously, trust me, they won't just come back, they'll be begging to stay. But remember, this isn't about manipulation, it's about reclaiming your power, your confidence, and your self-respect. If you want someone to return, you first need to show them that losing you was their biggest mistake. So go out there, take action, and watch the results unfold. Don't wait for them to change yourself first, and let them come to you. Until next time, stay strong, stay focused, and remember, your value is non-negotiable.